Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. Now it's time for the newspapers. Let's share with you the big stories making headlines across Nigeria today and also share our 2 cents on some of these stories. We're starting with the Daily Trust newspapers this morning. The big one there says, Appeal Court sacks Zamfara governor, orders rerun in 3 local government areas. We did speak a little bit about this this morning already and how interesting this is. And of course, once again, brings back my conversation on what really decides or is the deciding, factor for why the Nigerian electorate, go to the polls. But, aside that, it's interesting to see that this, I would, say is the most contested electoral period in Nigeria. 2023 elections, presidential and, of course, states across the country, the tribunals have been busy. The courts have been busy. I don't think that there's been this much litigation in Nigeria's elections, in its history. But it's very interesting also seeing, the way the court decisions are going. Kano, Bauchi governors also know their fate today. Yes. Panic foodstuffs buying in Kano over fear of violence. And also police warn against wild jubilation in Bauchi. Dollar hits 1,105 naira at the official market. And we would continue. I mean, I think a question, that everyone is asking is this going to be the new normal? Is this going to be are we going to get used to it as, this is what it is?
I don't want to believe that this is going to be the new normal, even though it's looking like it. I'm still holding on to hope that one day the dollar will finally come down to 500 naira. Sounds like a wild dream. Yeah,
but it used to be 216 at some point. It used to be 150 at some point.
Yes, so but I'm just hoping.
Doing 500 naira. 500 doesn't, even it's not consolation, for anybody. It's still as insane as possible because I remember there's time that the dollar, 2014 or 2008, I think the dollar was about 115
but that was a long time ago. That was a long time
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
I'm talking of the most recent.
But
so let's look at the start
we're talking about what
year.
has happened in the last 2 years.
Let's look at 1 year.
Yeah.
And even get back to the way it was at the beginning of the year. Let's get to the dollar getting to 400 naira, 500 naira at the beginning of the year. Because we would never have imagined that the time will come when we're paying over 1,000 naira. The dollar will be exchanging at over 1,000 naira.
It's shocking, but I think people did predict it. I think there were already people who had predicted that, with the way that we're going, with the policies that we're enacting, with the economic steps that we're taking, that we're likely going to get here. And there are people who had even said that it was going to get to 1,500, even 2,000 naira at some point. So do we think we're doing enough to reverse it? Time will tell. And honestly, not very many people believe that we are. Is this going to be the new normal? That's for me is my big fear, that we're going to just leave it that, $100, is equivalent to, 100,000 naira. And that's going to be the new normal. Nothing is going to change it.
$100 is actually now, it's more than
it's more than 100,000. Just using 1,000 as benchmark. So, is this going to be the new normal? If they say, you have a school fees or you have a bill of $1,000, you should start immediately thinking about $1 million naira. Is this going to be the new normal? For those who are
going on medical tourism, everybody's going to give birth to their children back here now.
Yeah. But of course, wow. What are the steps that the administration needs to take?
It's first, does the administration know what it needs to do to be able to reverse it?
I think they do. It's just not. I think they do. It's just not a. It's not going to happen in 2 days or 3 days. It has to be intentional in different sectors of the economy to enable these things to happen. But we'll see. Bandits kill mother and newborn and others in Sokoto. And also Bayelsa, Imo, Kogi polls, vote buying intimidation disturbing, says Peace Committee. 613 families of deceased police officers get 2.2 billion naira. That's good news. On the Daily Trust newspapers this morning.
Wow.
Now let's move away from there and go to the Guardian.
And our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the deceased, 613 of them, the mother, the newborn, and others who were killed as well. On the front page of the Guardian newspaper, from recreation to chronic diseases, speaking of poverty, how sachet alcoholic drinks breed alcoholism and thwart national development. Service shutdown imminent as USSD debts hit 200 billion naira. 2 commissioners abstain as Ondo ESCO passes vote of confidence on Akeredolu. This happened yesterday, of course. We had our guest join us to talk about it on the show. MTEF, FSIP, or Mr. FSP, I beg your pardon. Nigeria can't rely on borrowing Must raise revenues to fund 2024 budget, says Wale Edun. Insecurity. Buhari handed tough period to Tinubu, Ribadu laments. Yet again, we'll come to talk about that. This is why Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, is saying to the current administration, declare what you inherited. Declare how much you inherited, how much debt, how much insecurity, how much problems, so that we'll be able to analyze exactly where we're coming from and where you have led us to since you came into power. And the final story this morning on the Guardian newspaper says, Appeal Court sacks Zamfara governor, orders rerun in 3 local government areas, which is a story that we took in the first half of the show. And that's all that we have this morning on the Guardian newspaper.
Yeah, and I agree with the perspective from Labour Party's candidate. And the reason is, like I said yesterday, the APC blamed 16 years of PDP for 4 years when they came in 2015. It was their mantra. It was what their spokespersons and their fans and their supporters blamed, for 4 straight years. When that, story stopped selling to the Nigerian people, they then had to think about new ways that they can, blame the PDP or, not just blame themselves. But all of this, but all of this was leading us down, the bottomless pit of debt and, arguably the worst economic crisis that Nigeria has ever been, and not just economy, security, infrastructure, education. There's almost no indices that can show that, okay, Nigeria is better in this regard after 8 years. And guess what? We were then 87 trillion naira in debt from, I think we were about 12 trillion naira in debt in 2014 to 87 trillion naira in debt, and still couldn't point at anything or any particular indices that we had greatly improved upon. So those were just excuses. And that's why I think, from what Peter Obi is saying, you need to let us know exactly where we are. Because the APC's government in power is taken over from another APC government. It's not a new government. When you're saying, we inherited a lot of chaos.
It's not like it's your same party.
It's the same party. It's the same people.
The same mantra, the same manifesto and everything.
You didn't inherit anything. You basically are the same people who, were in office before. The only thing is that the players have changed, but it's the same political party that campaigned with the same manifesto or similarly, same manifesto that promised that, they are coming to, continue with the good work of the former president, and so what good work were you campaigning to continue with that you're now saying you inherited a lot of a tough period from the former government, and so these are things that Nigerians need to know. Let us know exactly what the current situation is, so that we'll know what we've gotten ourselves into. What is possible and what is not possible, so that we'll know when you are lying to us and when you're not lying to us. Let's know how much debt we are in, how much money was squandered by the last administration.
Subsidy really removed?
Was subsidy exactly? This is a question. What is the level of our infrastructure for healthcare, infrastructure for education, every single sector of government? Let us know where we are, so that we know. What is required.
And how we can hold you accountable. Because when you come and say to us, okay, this is where we are, this is where we're coming from, we have a yardstick to be able to judge your performance. Although, the average eye can see that there's a lot of displeasure about the way the current administration has led Nigeria, because we've not seen any positive results. It's just been from bad to worse so far. No, with the cost of living, with everything. Yes, it will take time for all this to normalize, but Nigerians need a clear picture. Paint a clear picture for us.
But let us know where we are, what you are taking off, from the previous administration, so that you do not keep telling us the same stories every 6 months.
Because before you know it, 4 years, we'll be done with 4 years, and we'll still hear,
that's exactly what they keep saying. Because the previous administration did it. The exact same thing, and they did it at least for the first 4 years. 16 years of PDP, 16 years of PDP, 16 years of PDP. That's what they said for 4 years, and then fixed nothing in those 4 years.
I'm about to experience 16 years of PPC. Anyway.
Well, let's go to the Nigerian Tribune and see what we can find over there.
All right.
It says there, governorship election, anxiety in Kano, Plateau, as court orders rerun in Zamfara. 3 local governments affected. Splinter group emerges in Edo PDP. Interesting. Insecurity reps turn back representatives. Insist service chiefs must appear. Osun governor suspends CJ, appoints Afolabi to act. And also 322 bodies not discovered in gravesite in Anambra, says Truth Commission. And also a 60-year-old retired banker makes first class, wins 8 awards at UI convocation. That's very interesting. Insecurity, we inherited tough period, says Ribadu at editors' conference. Sultan comments Makinde on new Adogba Central Mosque built by Oyo governor. And of course, what else can we find over here? Why we are against borrowing to finance the 2024 budget, says the finance minister. Well, whether you're against it or not, you still have to fund it, and it's very likely that you still have to borrow. Southeast, North, Central get 3 new Supreme Court justices each, as FJSC nominates XCJ and Son, 21 others for elevation. These are the big stories on the Tribune this morning. I think we have the Punch newspapers last.
All right, on the Punch newspaper, the front page, big story that says, be patient. Inherited crisis won't disappear overnight, according to Ribadu. Wow. NSA appeals to Nigerians, says Tinubu inherited poor economy and insecurity. Expose deficit inherited, I'll take that again. Expose deficit inherited from Buhari. Be transparent, Obi challenges federal government. Guinea-Bissau at 50, Tinubu pledges support for West Africa's democracy. PSC NPF consider 65 years as police retirement age. 80-year-old woman dies in Lagos building collapse. Yet another Lagos building collapse. The last time we said it, that we're going to have another one, unfortunately. These building collapse stories never end, because at the end of the day, we don't see proper investigation and arrest being made when these building collapse happens. Who is held accountable? Why did the building collapse in the first place? Who is the property developer? Who is in charge of that building? But did the person do their due diligence in ensuring that they got quality products and they hired people who could do the job? Who is going to ask those questions to make sure that this woman's death is not in vain? Unfortunately, we might never get answers to that, and we will then report another building collapse. I want to say God forbid, but that has been the norm, and that has been the routine.
Very true.
Osho Assembly suspends Chief Judge. Adeleke appoints replacement. At the top of the paper, Forex. Federal government blames low export earnings, plans diversification. This diversification story that we've been hearing for years and years and years. Well, it's one of our top stories today. I'll be looking at it shortly. Banks, USSD debts to telcos hits 200 billion naira. I did see that one of the telcos is leaving Liberia and a number of other African countries. And I wonder if that will come to Nigeria soon. Final story, Senate summons service chiefs, demands security rejig. And that's all we have this morning on the front page of Guardian, of the Punch newspaper, as well as other newspapers.